Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this elective. We're talking about middle school students, or middle school children, I should say, parenting a middle schooler, and the pressures that brings, and just the questions that you might have, or maybe the next steps that you're looking to take. And here's how I want to start. Okay, I don't have a middle schooler, obviously, so for me, this is all coming from a place where I have, done some research. I've interacted with middle schoolers a lot. I have a really deep passion for them, which I know some of you are like, bro, you're crazy. But I really do. I have a passion for them. And this all stems from a place for me, thinking back when I was in middle school and just that phase of my life and just what it was like. And that's where that passion comes from, because, man, I needed Jesus as a middle schooler, and that's just where my passion comes from. So please understand, I'm not a parent of a middle schooler, but what I will try to do with you guys today in this elective is to just kind of explain the mind of a middle schooler and explain to you maybe some things that you can do to help them along in this process. Here's how I want to start. Okay, I want to start off by kind of having an activity with you as you're watching this. I want you to close your eyes. Okay, so trusting your eyes are closed now. I want you to picture yourself as a middle schooler. Okay, picture the middle school version of yourself. And as you're picturing the middle school version of yourself, I want you to take some time right now before we go any further, and I want you to finish these two blanks for me. I'm going to give you a sentence, and I want you to fill in the blanks about yourself as a middle schooler. So here it is. As a middle schooler, I was too blank and not blank enough. I was too blank and not blank enough. So go ahead, fill out those blanks as we're thinking, picturing yourself as a middle schooler. Here's the reason why I'm doing this. I think for me, as I've worked with middle schoolers and interacted with middle schoolers, one of the most helpful things for me is I have had to literally picture myself as a middle schooler. I've had to think through what was going on in my life as a middle schooler, right? Some words that come to mind would be, a little awkward. Things were changing. I was kind of stepping out of line a little bit more with my parents and with teachers. For me, I was really trying to fit in with friends at school, and I was feeling a lot of different pressure. And the reason this was happening is because, man, I'm a firm believer that the transition from elementary school to middle school is the biggest transition in someone's life. Now, I understand you're probably thinking, well, when you become an adult, right, high school to college and further, that's a pretty big change too. And I agree with you, and maybe they're the same. But if you really think about it, from elementary school to middle school, the word change is massive. It's all caps, it's circled, and it's underlined, because in middle school, all right, your middle schooler is going through so much change. And before we get any further, I want you, this entire time as we're talking, I want you to picture yourself as a middle schooler, your middle school self, because I really believe that that's going to help you identify and see where your middle schooler is coming from right now in this very moment of intense change. Right, so we're talking about 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Obviously, that's what we are saying is middle school. I know for some people in some places of the country, I think 9th grade gets thrown in there, maybe even 5th. I don't know how that works, junior high or whatever. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is what we are talking about in this elective. And what I want to do is I'm going to break this into two parts. This is going to be hopefully pretty simple, pretty short. Have your notebook ready, because I'm going to have you write down some things. What I want to do with you is I want to talk about what your middle schooler or what a middle schooler is experiencing. And then at the end of this elective, we're going to talk about 3 things that you can do to help them in this process as a parent, okay? So we want to kind of equip you and help you understand just the mind of a middle schooler. A lot of the things that I'm talking about today come from Orange, okay? So Orange, they have a lot of really good resources as you're a parent. There are books that have every single year of middle school covered, and they talk about what your child needs in each one of those grades. And they're excellent books. I highly recommend them. Parenting your 6th grader, 7th grader, and 8th grader, you can find them on Amazon. I believe they're on our resource page too for parents that we've been promoting. So buy those, be about this. And and try to figure your middle schooler out as much as possible. So here we go. I have 3 things that your middle schooler is trying to figure out right now. Okay, you ready for this? So you can write them down. Here's the first thing. Your middle schooler is trying to find their identity. Okay, your middle schooler is trying to find their identity. And this is so interesting because in elementary school, this really doesn't happen. Right? In elementary school, everyone views everyone on the same playing field, right? Essentially, everybody goes to recess, everybody does the math, everybody goes to lunch, everybody, like they're all kind of a unit, right? But when you step into middle school, you begin to realize that the people around you look different. They talk different. They act different. And what we begin to do as middle schoolers, we begin to compare ourselves to other people. Whereas in elementary school, we didn't do that as much, but now middle school, it's happening. And on top of that, obviously, a lot of changes are taking place, and you're recognizing those changes in yourself, but also in other people. And you begin to look at others, and this word identity is massive for a middle schooler. And they're trying to answer this question, who am I as a person? Right? Who am I? Right? What are my interests? What am I really good at? What am I not good at? Man, what do I have? What do I not have? And this begins to kind of dictate and determine how they talk, how they view themselves, and how they see the world. That's a big transition in a person's life, right? Who am I? What is my identity? The second thing that your middle schooler is trying to figure out is this, the word acceptance, okay? And this kind of falls underneath identity. Obviously, we're kind of just now talking about it, but acceptance is a huge word that pops up in the mind of your middle school child. And the question they're trying to answer, it's a 2-part question with the word acceptance, right? Who likes me? And who are my friends? Who likes me and who are my friends? Again, in elementary school, we really don't see this, but in middle school, we do. And in middle school, you're looking and you're trying to figure out, okay, who do I want to be friends with and who do I not want to be friends with? Who do I share interests with and who do I not share interests with? Who do I look like? Who do I not look like, right? They're answering these questions. Who is friends with me? And if you ever notice, man, a middle schooler, for me, what I've seen upstairs in our student room is the most important thing to a middle school student when they come into the room is if their friends are here. Right? They'll immediately, and they'll even ask you, hey, have you seen so-and-so? Have you seen Ryan or whoever? Like, I'm wanting to hang out with them because that is my friend. That is the person that I share connection with. I'm looking for them. And it's interesting, until that friend enters the room, they're pretty standoffish, oftentimes. But when that person enters the room, they light up, they come to life. And maybe you've noticed this with the friends that your child is friends with right now, that they're different. They have a different energy when they're around that friend because that question, whether they're verbalizing it or not, likely times they're probably not. They're asking, who likes me and who's friends with me? And we're going to talk about this as a parent, how it plays into your parenting here in just a little bit. So we have identity, we have acceptance, and then here's the last thing, the third thing that your middle schooler is trying to figure out, and it's the word responsibility, okay? Responsibility, right? They're getting older, and they're realizing that they are able, physically able and mentally able to do more than they could in elementary school. But then they begin to ask themselves this question, what is my purpose, right? What is my purpose? What part do I play in the world? Do I have significant meaning? And this actually ties into identity as well, which again is why identity is so important for a middle schooler. Right? What is my purpose as a human being in this world? And oftentimes you see that a middle schooler begins to think like, what am I going to do in the future, right? Am I going to be, am I going to have the job that my parents have? Am I going to be a famous YouTuber, right? Am I going to be a gaming streamer? Am I going to be a musician, an athlete? And they begin to start taking on these responsibilities because they are searching for their purpose. They're searching for who they are. And it's a longing, it's a desire, and it's a God-given desire, right, in all of us. But middle school is really where you begin to see them ask the question, what is my responsibility as a person, right? Who am I? And what's my purpose? Identity, acceptance, and responsibility. Now, it's one thing to know and understand your middle schooler, but it's an entirely different thing to really try to help them through this process. Because at the end of the day, whether they're telling you this or not, they are pretty scared because they're going through a lot of changes. They have more responsibility. They want purpose, but they don't know how, right? They want to be accepted, but they don't know how. And they begin to try to figure it out on their own, but really what we want to do, right, as parents is you want to come alongside them and help them through this process. And it's so interesting. You might be realizing with your middle schooler right now, They might be giving you a little bit more of an attitude, right? A little bit more eye roll. Maybe they're saying things that they didn't say before and it's catching you off guard, and maybe it scares you as a parent, but just know at the end of the day, they're trying to figure this out. They're scared, ultimately. And they probably won't tell you that, but they're scared. They're scared because they're trying to find identity, trying to find acceptance, and they're trying to find responsibility in this massive world. And they're beginning to realize how the world works as a whole. So what we want to do is we want to help you as a parent, which is why you're here. And I have 3 things again for you, and they all start with the letter P. I got a classic 3-point sermon for you right now that I'm going to condense. So in your notebooks, write these 3 things down. As a parent of a middle schooler, here are 3 things that you can do to help your middle schooler right now where they are as they navigate these new things in their life. Okay, here we go. Here's the first one. First one is this: parameters. Okay, I almost hesitated to write this word because I was really struggling to find a good word for what I'm about to say. You can replace it with the word guideline, boundaries, I don't know. But you need to set up parameters. Okay, and I'm going to make this very, very clear. And maybe you already do these things, maybe you don't. But you need to set parameters for your middle schooler. Okay, let me give you an example. We live in a world where technology is so crazy beyond what we maybe ever imagined it would be. And maybe you're at the point where your middle schooler does have a cell phone. Maybe they have a smartphone, okay? I'm not telling you that they shouldn't, but what I am going to tell you is this as my example. A middle schooler with a cell phone in their room by themselves is not a good thing. And let me tell you why, okay? Because as they're beginning to navigate and try to figure out who they are as a person, who cares about them, who likes them, and what their purpose is, they're going to begin to look at places like YouTube. They're going to look at things like Instagram. They're going to look at things like text messages. They're going to start connecting with people, connecting with YouTubers without you even realizing it. And before you know it, they will have all these other outlets that are trying to tell them who they are as a person and what their responsibility is. And you might not see it right now, but as they get to 8th and 9th grade and 10th grade, you will begin to see that they will start to change even more, and it might not be for the better, right? That's just one example of many, but you need to set parameters for your middle schooler. You need to help them find outlets to see who they are and what their responsibility is in a productive and healthy way. Walk with them. Right? Ask them questions. Let them ask you questions. Be a resource to them so they're not going to other places for this information. You also need to set up parameters with their friends, right? Who are they friends with? Man, we say this all the time, and I'm sure you probably already know it. Show me your friends. I will show you your future. This begins the most in middle school. Who are they friends with? Do you know their friends? Do you know their friends' parents? Or do you know where they're hanging out, what they're doing when they're hanging out? You must set parameters. They are quite not ready yet for that independence because they're trying to figure out who they are as a person. What are your parameters? My practical step for you would be to sit down as a parent and write down key parameters that you truly care about for your middle schooler. And I would even tell you too, as you set up these parameters, also make sure that you're providing for them, which is our second point, providing for them what they need to navigate their identity and responsibility. So the first word is parameters, set those up. The second thing you should do and can do for your middle schooler is to provide for them. Provide for them a safe environment where they can ask questions without repercussions. Okay, they need to have that safe place to just ask questions about identity, about responsibility. Maybe it's you being as intentional as setting up a specific time without them even realizing it, where you're asking them questions. Maybe it's in the car. Right? Instead of the radio being on, turn it off and begin to have these conversations. Right? Maybe it's you sitting next to them as you guys are building Legos. I don't know. Asking them questions about these things like identity and friendships and acceptance and responsibility. Man, spark up these conversations about what they want to do, who they want to be, what they like, what they don't like. Provide for them a safe place within your family, within your home, where they can express these questions as they're growing and changing constantly. Parameters, provision, and here's the last thing, pursuit. Pursue your middle schooler. Do not be afraid of the awkwardness. Do not be afraid of the change. Do not be afraid of all these things that are happening in their life, but pursue them in it. Ask them these questions. Build these relationships with them. Participate in their interest with them. I'm telling you, 3 years is fast. And what we typically see in student ministry, what I have seen at least, the more intentional parents are in middle school, what a difference it makes in high school. It really and truly does. When you begin to have conversations in middle school about who they are and allowing them to ask these questions and pursuing them daily, high school is different. College even is different. Pursue them. Have moments that you can set up where you're spending time with them. Now, I know that this is hard, and you'll almost have to maybe sometimes trick them into this, and that sounds kind of weird, but they're at a point where, honestly, they don't think you're cool. Okay, I'm just going to say that. I'm sorry, I think you're cool. I think you're awesome, but they're at a place where they don't think that you are cool. So you almost have to sneak in these moments of time with them, pursuing them. I don't know what that looks like specifically for you, but write that down, man. Where are the moments where I'm sitting with my child, my middle school child, the most, right? Maybe it is the car. Maybe it is in the living room. Maybe it is watching movies together, right? Another great example, I've heard someone say this. Let's say you're watching a movie with your middle schooler. Take a moment in a movie to pause it and ask them a question about what's happening in the movie. To them, you're talking about the movie, but what you're actually doing is you're pursuing them. You're engaging with them on a deeper level because you're asking questions about acceptance, responsibility, and identity without them even realizing it. And you're hiding these questions because you're pursuing them and you're being intentional about it. Now, look, again, I don't have a middle schooler, and I know this was way shorter than it could be. There's so much more to talk about this. And hey, listen, if you want to talk more about it, I can try my best. You can send me an email. I'll actually put that in the description of this video. And you can ask your questions there too. I encourage you to read these books. But here, at the end of the day, listen to me, okay? These 3 years are so vital. Don't let this be a moment where you take your foot off the gas. Let this be a moment where you put it into hyperdrive. You're having more conversations than you did before. You're having more moments with them. You're hanging out with them more than you did in elementary school. You're doing more things with them. You're asking about their interests, even if it is Fortnite dances. I don't know. Pursue them. Provide for them. Give them a safe place while also setting up parameters. They're going through so much change and they're so scared. And they might not be able to verbalize it, but by you pursuing them, you'll be amazed to see what happens to your young middle schooler as they grow into high school. Don't let up yet. Now, let me tell you, they will still roll their eyes at you. They might not ever think that you're cool in these 3 years, but I can promise you this. They will look back on their middle school years and they will either say, my parents pursued me and provided a safe place, or they didn't and I found it elsewhere. Don't let that happen. Can I pray for you? Dear Lord, we come before you right now and we just acknowledge the fact that middle school is crazy. But we also acknowledge that we want to be the best parents that we can. And I pray right now for these parents that are watching this video, that they would provide for their middle schooler a safe place where they can ask questions. That they would pursue them in a way where they're just constantly asking them questions, engaging with them in their interests. God, I pray that they would also provide parameters so they can stay within your word, within your counsel, within your wisdom as they try to find who they are and what their purpose is and honestly who they're friends with, God. Lord, I pray for our middle schoolers. I pray for those middle schoolers who are asking these questions, that you would provide godly answers for them. God, that you would instill with them this early on, that they would pursue you, instill in them your love, your guidance, your wisdom. God, at the end of the day, we just want to love our middle schooler better, and we want them to love you. God, thank you for Jesus, that he is unchanging even in seasons of change. It's in the name of Jesus I pray, and everyone said, amen. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching this. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me via email. Again, pick up those books, Parenting Your 6th Grader, 7th Grader, and 8th Grader, and read them, pursue them, and try to figure them out. You guys are awesome. Have a good one.